Hey everybody, Spidey here. I am going to do my first tabletop simulator video, and I've been getting into tabletop simulator a lot recently. Of course, because of the state of the world, and I've been really fiddling around, finding out how I wanted to do stuff, and it's not. You do something for a while, then you change doing something else. And right now, I'm really happy with my minis when playing Dungeons and Dragons. I am using Rokem's two-sided figurines for my minis, combined with I am a Patreon of printable heroes, and it's that combination which has led me to making these videos, because there are some issues. Rokem has made these really awesome in-game paper minis. They are, of course, flat, as paper minis are, but you actually can make some really cool miniatures like these ones. But there are some issues. And one issue that I came up with is about the scale and the boundaries of the model. If you take a look at the standard size model, which is this one, I use the two-sided ones because I have, like I said, I have a Patreon. So when I get minis from printable heroes, I am able to get the back side also. You should really consider doing that. It's cost $1 a month, I think, for getting the back of minis. But you take this figure and you use the template that Rokem has made for his models, and then you are able to import them in, and you end up with these. And these looks really awesome. Some figures are of course bigger, some are wider. This is his wide-based figurine. I haven't found a whole lot of uses for this, to be honest. But an example here would be my direwolf here. I have a player in my party that plays a druid who can wild shape into a direwolf. So that's a pretty neat use for the wide base, I think. But there's issues. If you look at these are basically these two with the textures removed. That is how the model actually looks. And one problem that becomes quite clear is when you're making. I'm gonna put this away for now because, like I said, it has only somewhat limited uses in my world. But if you look at this, the paper of the model where you put the image is only the size of the base, and that becomes pretty clear on my bugbear here. See the way the picture is. He is, of course, holding his axe here, and his axe is kind of sticking out. But I have had to fit the picture inside the boundaries of the base, because that's how the image is. And that's, of course, gives you some restrictions to size and proportions and stuff like that. Because I could make a really tall bugbear that's like really skinny, because I have to fit him in on the horizontal line. So that's an issue. Luckily, you can, of course, I can make a small bugbear. Now, look, according to scale, look at this, my goblins. I scale my goblins somewhat smaller because they're smaller. And if my bugbear if I weren't able to rescale, he would be about this big, and that's not right. That bugbear is simply too small. Luckily, I can scale him up. But doing that can cause some other issues. And a small thing that annoys me, it actually annoys me like hell that he's off-centered. Like you see, his foot here is really close to the edge because I have to squeeze in the axe within the boundaries of the paper. So, what did I do? I made another model. I made this one. Well, that's super bright over here. I don't know why. I'm gonna turn it a bit so it's not so bright. This is Rokem's original, and I basically took that model into Blender, and I doubled the paper size on the horizontal axis. And what I end up with is a model able to do this with the sword sticking out. That could be that axe. Please don't criticize. This is only for demonstrative purposes. Um, and that's pretty neat. Now I have figures, but there's still one thing that is kind of important about this, because in Tabletop Simulator there is a thing called colliders, and colliders is something 3D models have. It's how they interact with the world around them, how the game knows where the model starts and where it begins. For instance, when I lift up my figure here and plop it down, that is because the collider is hitting the table and telling model you need to stop because you're a solid object that can't go through the table. Otherwise, it would just fall through. It didn't have a collider, it would fall through. The collider is not up-down, it's also to the sides, and it becomes, of course, visible when you try and put them next to each other. It's like, see here, oh, there's the collider. I can't have them, even though it looks like I should be able to put this in and it should like lean over the base. The collider is actually pretty much a box that goes up around the model. So when I do this, they'll stand on top of each other. This collider is standing on this collider, and that's it works pretty well. You can get around it. It's not really an issue that often. But let's say I want to line these up. I want to make my army of purple men. Here we go. I'm now ready to conquer the world. How would you do it with this? Like, you could think, okay, do I then need to make spaces like this? Do the sword starts to collide with this guy? No, because the way I made my module is that the sword has the this model, even though it has the sword sticking out, it uses the same collider as this one. So this paper here doesn't collide. The base still collides, so it still stands on the table. I can pick it up and move it around, but the paper that's sticking out over the base doesn't collide with anything else. You can see here they can overlap, and that makes like them fitting in so much easier. Why is that easier? Well, let me give you an example, and that was actually part of the reason this Chimera here, which is the newest release from Printable Heroes, is actually the reason why I did this. Because when I'm bound by the restrictions of this size of paper, imagine the wings. I have to fit the wings in on this little piece of paper, meaning the model itself won't be very large. It'll be like this. And if I have to scale it up because a Chimera is a pretty big beast, well, then the base has to be huge. And with this, I get more wriggle room for at least the horizontal axis, so I can have wings sticking out here, and they won't collide with the world, because wings, they look good, but you don't want them. You don't want a model that like collides everything because they had huge wings, and that's a problem. So what I've done is I'm going to use my ogre example here. Here I have Talanus. He is a player in my player's party, and he is up against two ogres. This is the ogre I made yesterday, and it's an ogre made with the original model from Rokem, and this is my new ogre. Right now, these ogres are, well, if I do that, I think they're about the same size. Like, compared to Talanus, it's the same size. And but if you look at the scale of the models, they have the same. The models themselves have the same base size. This base is as big as this base. And look at here. This ogre here is scaled so much larger to get the size I want, because I had to squeeze it in on a small paper, because this model has the exact same problem. The club is sticking out, so if I had to fit that in, like to the edge of the paper, if the paper was the original size, the ogre would be squeezed down, and he is small. And I can show you if we make these, like, set the same scale of them. If I set them to the scale of 1, both of them. Oh, I have to click the right one. There we go. 1, 1, 1. Oh, I guess I didn't hit all the axes. 1.0. There we go. This is actually, whoops. This is actually the two models when they're the same size. And this is because the paper is larger. So when I'm not limited by the x-axis, I can make him taller on the piece of paper here. If you take this piece of paper, because that model is so wide, he can't be very tall. I'm not using very much of the paper in upwards because he's too wide. Well, here I can fill out the paper much more, so I end up with a model that's simply bigger. And that's good because bases, of course, bases are important because grid sizes when you play Dungeons and Dragons is important. An ogre is a large creature, so he should take up 4 squares in Dungeons and Dragons rules. Oh, sorry, Talamas, you. I'm gonna pull out Gunnar and take him in instead. A medium-sized creature like a human or an elf here takes up 1 square. A large size takes up 4, and I can make this small one take up 4, but to get the scale actually, right now he's still not. That's not really an ogre. I need him bigger. So I'm having to fill up more space of the base to make an ogre the same size the ogre I actually want. And why is that a problem? Well, look over here. Here we have Peleus. He's fighting 2 ogres in an environment that could be very Dungeons and Dragons-y. It's a dungeon with walls, and there's some furniture here that's knocked over and destroyed by the ogres, and you have to do your fighting. And on the ogre's turn, this guy, he wants to move. I'm just gonna, you're not in the room yet. He wants to move. Oh, he moves forwards this way, and I have to plop him down. Oh, he's colliding with the furniture. How about this way? No. That's kind of a tight fit. That's annoying. There's no problem with this miniature. Well, actually, it can be a little bit, but we get by. Gets even worse if there's a wall. Try fitting him in over here, because the wall actually like kind of steals some of the space. This space maybe we're supposed to be 2 by 2, but if it's not, I'm having big problems with this big ogre. But if I use my other ogre, which is, well, right now he's actually bigger than this guy, right? You're benched. Look at this guy. Look how much easier he is to fit in when he chases after Peleus. Look at over by the wall here. Yes, the club goes through the wall because it doesn't collide. There's no collider on it. I know it's not realistic. You have to turn it, yada, yada, yada. But it doesn't give issue when you play. It's so much easier. The ogre's running this way, standing there. What are you going to do, Peleus? Oh, I'm going to cast a fireball, run over here, so on and so on. So that is my solution to having creatures on the Rokem bases that actually are big on one axis, and it's particularly the horizontal axis that becomes a problem, because that's the where the boundaries are tighter. So I think it's kind of neat, and I especially like the thing that there are no collisions, so you can still fit them close together. I hope this is useful for you. I hope you can use these in your Dungeons and Dragons games on Tabletop Simulator. I know I am going to be using the hell out of this because there are a lot of awesome miniatures which are available from Printable Heroes. If you're a patron, you should really consider being that. This video was also really inspired by the Murder Hobo on YouTube. You should really follow him. A lot of the stuff that I picked up in the last month making Dungeons and Dragons tables in Tabletop Simulator I got from him. He is also using these miniatures, and maybe he'll start using my new ones. Who knows? So a lot of inspiration there, and I really hope you can use this to enjoy the game. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.